Almost 5 years ago, we did the original Ironclad tier list. And about a year ago, we did a revamping of all of my tier lists. But what I did was I took the tier lists and then I rearranged where things were. 2 reasons why I didn't like that. 1, my ADHD brain does not allow me to see things that should have been moved around. The comment section of that video were like, this card should have been moved, you didn't address this card. And so I felt like people just want to know my thoughts on every single card nowadays. I am here to talk once again about my genuine opinion on every single card in the game. This is going to take a while. If I could just get a quick consensus from the chat real quick before we get in. If they're watching this in the video, should they come over and give their and tell me what should have been in a different place? Should they come over to the stream right now as they're watching this and just say how wrong I was about X card in X position? This is like my final tier listing, I guess, right before Slay the Spire 2 comes out. And also, I feel like I've been playing the game a little bit more seriously recently, so I think I might have more matured opinions. I mean, definitely from 5 years ago, but even a year ago, I think the game has gotten really serious in general. Let's get into it then. You know what? Before we get in, I'll give my genuine opinion on Clash, because Clash is the biggest meme card probably of the Ironclad, next to probably Perfected Strike. It's the card that is akin to Claw in terms of what chat wants to give me the most during Slay the Streamer, but I actually think that it's a lot better than what people give it credit for. Obviously, it gets a lot worse as you get past Ascension 10 and you get the starting curse, but it's actually insanely good in Act 1 to be able to perform a crazy amount of damage, because most turns, if the Ironclad starts with 4 defense, most turns that you draw a Clash, you're going to also only draw enough skills in your hand that you should be able to play them all. Clash can actually be a really good tool in Act 1, and I found myself taking it a lot more in runs that I play seriously. I don't think that outside of Act 1 you're going to be playing it as much, because usually after Act 1 you're taking a lot more skills and powers and things like that. But if you find it super early on in a run and you're like, damn, I have a guaranteed floor 6 elite combat, and I have found no solid scaling, no damage, no nothing, it probably is going to be able to help, unless it's tri-sentries and then you're going to cry. But if it against Lagavulin, it scales really, or it holds up well, and against Gremlinob, it's a really good finisher tool. So it's really, really fucking good. Damn it, chat, we stalled so long, we have another ad break coming up. Fuck, let me get through Clash, and then we'll take a break for the ad break. God damn it. Merlin to give the 45. Where I would genuinely put Clash is probably like D tier. Maybe the bottom of C tier. I actually think that you can take it in a number of runs. And the first card that we're going to be rating legitimately, Anger, I would put in a very similar spot of where I would want to take it, because they do virtually the same thing. They're a 0-cost card that you want earlier in a run a lot of the time to combo with your added bash, just to be extra damage. And then Anger can have, but the thing with Anger is Anger can have a lot more later on. And then it's really good in the early game as well, because as you reshuffle, you want more 0-cost attacks. Act 1 to me, especially on the Ironclad with innate healing, is just a damage race. The only Act 1 boss that it's bad into is Guardian. Other than that, it's excellent in both of the other 2 Act 1 bosses. Because of also a lot of the late game synergies, the amount of like 9-hour life coach runs that I watched that would end with him having Anger as his main damage source, I genuinely think that Anger is A tier. I think I should take it more often, but I'm always scareder to take it later on in runs, and I think I need to identify when it's a better card to take later on in runs, but I do think that it's genuinely an amazing attack source. And if you're wondering how I rank cards, it's by how often I think that it's a useful thing a useful tool to take is usually how I like to rank runs, or rank cards. So you'll see cards that you'll be like, damn, but this card can make my run go to the moon. It's like, yeah, but like how often does it do that? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, next up we have Armaments. Armaments gain 5 blog, upgraded card. Obviously, this is like a must upgrade card. If you're taking Armaments, you're trying to get it upgraded. Because of that, I think it cannot be S tier. I think because of how poor it is unupgraded, like how much it and you in the later on in the game, the less likely you're gonna take it, because You've already upgraded so many things and you invested so much of your resources into upgrading. But I take it almost every single run. I take at least one Armaments because it's the fucking common card and it can upgrade 9 cards at a time in my hand. Armaments is definitely A tier, but it's just not there to get to S tier. Yeah, Armaments is definitely incredible, especially early on. Synergizes well with any 0-cost card. It makes a lot of cards cost 0. Like Seeing Red, or it'll reduce the cost of a card like Corruption, so you can essentially play it for 5 free block and then still play the card that then costs less. So anything that it makes cost less early on is really solid, but then later on in the game it becomes less good because most cards later on in the game that is a defensive tool will be more than 5 block per 1 energy, so it becomes less good. And then also as the fights tend to take longer in the later game, Armaments becomes less and less useful because you've upgraded more things in your deck from campfires and events and from taking more upgraded cards. And then also the cards in your deck then get upgraded with Armaments, so then the next time that you draw it, it's more useless. So I don't think that it can belong in S tier just because of that fact. All right, Barricade goes in S tier. Barricade is one of the most powerful effects that you can get on this character. Although it's not going to be the winning decision in every single run, right? You're not going to be taking it every single time that you see it. It is one of the key tools that allows you to win a run. It can be the make or break of whether or not you get to win a run in so many runs. Like, there are so many runs that I play on other characters that I'm like, damn, if I got Calipers here, it would be insane. Most content creators in the Slay the Spire space literally have a Calipers would be good here command in their stream because their chat says so fucking often, Calipers would be good here. Guess what else would be really good there in that same situation? A Barricade. Barricade just works. There's a lot of relics that give you block for free. The Ironclad has the most tools, in my opinion, to just get a massive burst of block. You oftentimes find Panic Button in your runs. You oftentimes find an Impervious. You can get, with like the Corruption, Dark Embrace, Feel No Pain shit, you can gain a crazy amount of block very, very quickly. And with the nature of needing to block specific turns against an enemy, it is really good to be able to not have to manipulate your deck to guarantee that you draw your block cards on that specific turn. And so you can just play things a lot more willy-fucking-nilly. Barricade's insane. Love Barricade. Next up, the starting card, Beish. Originally, I rated this card insanely high. 5 years ago, Frost Prime was a bit of a dumbass. I think I rated this card in S tier. Why did I rate it in S tier? Because I was a dumbass bitch idiot. Where would I put Bash now? I don't think that it's absolutely useless because you start with it, but I would never take this card in a million fucking years. But also, it's supposed to be weaker than a card that normally costs, it's supposed to be weaker than a card that normally costs 2 mana, right? It's not supposed to be a 2-mana card that you're gonna think about adding another one in your deck. When you see it in the match and skip game, is the only other place in the game where you can be against your will given another copy of Bash. You get scared when the first card you flip over at the match and keep game is Bash. You're like, oh, there's 3 curses inside this match and keep game, man. There's 3 curses. So it's Dali's Mirror 2. Chat, you don't listen to the end of my sentences before you try to type an actually. Where the fuck am I Dali's mirroring a Bash against my will? Is chat holding a gun to my head? Yeah, I think Bash is fucking dog shit in terms of the quality of an Ironclad card, but it is one of the better starter cards out of all of the starter cards that exist. It provides you a lot of power early on. The only character that I think has better starter cards is probably... Hold on, let me think for a second. Neutralize? That's an S tier card. Neutralize is insane. Survivor's kind of mid. I would rank Survivor lower than Bash. Zap, I would rank lower than Bash. Okay, so it's down there. Dual Cast, though, that one's pretty good. Eruption, that's the best one. That's the S+ tier. Vigilance, kind of mid. Kind of butt. It's kind of butt, but it's only you need it because you have the Eruption. I would say Bash is like middle of the road in terms of starting cards. Moving on, next up, Battle Trance. You take almost 1 per run. Like, it just has to be S tier. The amount of times that you take a Battle Trance, there is very few runs where I'm not going to take a Battle Trance. 0 cost, draw 3 or 4 cards is nasty. And what? Look at these 2 cards. They kiss. Look, you can put them right over each other and they're the same size. Coincidence? It's not. It's because they're S tier together. Battle Trance Armaments is one of the best early game mechanics is to draw a butt ton of cards and then upgrade them all. The first one is a must take. The second one you can't take until much later. And it's really only good if you don't have any other draw engine. But the frequency at what you take this card in your runs, if I were talking to a newer player, I could say, yes, take one Battle Trance in every single run that you play on the Ironclad, and I think that I would up their win percentage more than it would hurt it for the times that they take it, and it's a bad choice to take. The trade-off is almost never a bother if you're playing correctly. Next up, Berserk. Now, keep in mind, this tier list is very old, so there are some mistakes, like Corruption is uncommon and Dark Embrace is rare. That's obviously been flipped. This card also has been buffed. Technically, it's gained 2 vulnerable, only 1 on upgrade. But in terms of frequency that I take Berserk, it's next to none. And I think I still agree with what my thoughts were years ago. It's mainly the fact that it's a rare card. And so I'm seeing it stacked up against rare cards so often. And so many of the other rare cards are going to be what I take against it. Versus if it was an uncommon card and I saw it really early on in a run, I think that there's a chance that I would take it more often in that sense than where you most of the time see a Berserk and it is stacked up against your other options at a shop, or more often stacked up against 2 other rare cards at a boss reward. And you're looking for something that stimulates your deck far more. Berserk, to me, is the same, like, it's the pick that you would take when you would also take, like, a tiny house. Like, you're not, like, excited to take a Berserk ever, but the thing is there's never really another option that I wouldn't take over a tiny house in terms of rare cards on the Ironclad. But there are times that I'm like, okay, there's nothing else really here. I would take a tiny house. Berserk just, like, actively does not move your deck in a positive direction far enough that I just don't take it super infrequently, because I think that there's so much other better energy manipulation and energy generation in the game that you just don't ever need the payoff or the trade-off of Berserk. And most of the time that you're taking it, it's with some sort of, like, cheeky, like, orange pellets or something like that is kind of like win more, where you almost don't even need it, or you take it earlier on in your run, and then by the time that it's, like, later on in the run, you've probably found another energy generation source, and you're now like, oh, well, what the fuck do I do now? I still have this fucking card in my deck, and I can still orange pellets the shit away, or I can still use my Clockwork Souvenir that would probably be better if I just waited to use it on turn 1 of the hard fight to block the vulnerable. Like, I just think Berserk is just fucking trash, and it sucks that it's a rare card. But next up is Blood for Blood. I rated this card rather lowly originally, and I've seen other content creators, including one in chat, that rated this card a little bit lower. I think in terms of how often I take this card, I think I would put it in A tier. And I don't really give a shit about ordering the cards in terms of, like, me actually doing the ordering myself, but I would put this at, like, the tippity top of A tier. Like, I think that this is borderline S tier. It does need an upgrade, but there's one cool interaction that it actually has that not a lot of people know about, unless you're, like, have, like, over 1,000 hours in the game, or you've heard me say it before. If you upgrade a Blood for Blood mid-combat, it'll always reduce by 1 energy. So unless it costs 0, obviously. But if it costs 1 and you upgrade it in combat, it will cost 0. It always goes down in cost, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like it might. But I think Blood for Blood also gets a lot better the higher Ascension you go, because the higher Ascensions are built to deal chip damage to you, right? Cultist on floor 1. It hits you on turn 2 for 6, and then turn 3 for 11. So it's meant to be right above your block point. So you're probably going to take a little bit of chip damage. Jawworm on turn 1 deals 12 damage to you. The Louse tend to deal like 12 to 14 damage to you. The Slimes deal 6 damage. They deal 8 damage. They deal 12 damage. They, like, all of the enemies, especially early on, are meant to just do a little bit more than what a 5 defend block would do in terms of a multiple of 5. So you're usually okay with taking a little bit of damage to trade for a little bit of damage back to the enemy. And so eventually, in almost every single fight, Blood for Blood becomes extremely valuable. and can deal a lot of damage and is an insanely good tool for Act 1 elites. In my opinion, this is a must-take in Act 1 if I do not somehow magically already have a perfect engine of game set up. Like, I am almost always in Act 1 going to take a Blood for Blood unless I've, like, routed myself into a top-tier run already. It's good into every single Act 1 boss. It's good as a late-game heart-killing tool. The amount of runs where I go into the heart and a Blood for Blood is my main source of damage. Multiple Blood for Bloods. I'll probably have 2 in the deck or a dual wield or ways to pull it back into my hands. Yeah, Blood for Blood is a good at all stages of the game. It is genuinely an amazing tool, and I highly recommend you take it in as an attack. It may end up becoming what your deck needed then, or it might become what your deck needed then and also what your deck can use in the future. Because also the Ironclad is a character that literally hurts themselves half the time. Literally hurts themselves in confusion in order to do things, and hurting yourself just triggers Blood for Blood as well. Next up, Bloodletting. When I first rated Bloodletting, I'm pretty sure I put this shit in like D or F tier. This shit is an S tier card. Holy fucking shit. I take Bloodletting almost every single goddamn run. Bloodletting is so fucking good, man. Bloodletting is insane. It is insane. Now, again, it is not what it says here on this card. It gives you 2 energy unupgraded, and it gives you 3 energy when upgraded. 3 health to gain 3 energy when comboed with something like Battle Trance, Armaments, all those sort of things is crazy. It is one of the best instant energy generation cards in the entire game. It is better than things like Turbo because you're not going to have to deal with the randomness of when you're going to draw the Void next. It is better than something like Seeing Red because you can play it multiple times in a fight. It is better than something like Concentrate because it doesn't have the stipulation of when you can and can't play it. It's better than something like Recycle. In my opinion, I think Recycle is like right next to it, but I think it's just slightly better, and especially because you're on the Ironclad. Because you can play it more times in a fight, or it doesn't run out based on the cards in your hand, and it doesn't run out based on the RNG of the cost of the cards in your hand, and et cetera, et cetera. And the Ironclad is a character that utilizes their health extremely well, and there's so many tools in the game to help you heal and to help you maintain your health. It's insane. I think a lot of newer players especially are worried about... they're worried about 2 things. They're worried about exhaust cards because they're like, what the heck? My deck is going to go down to 0 cards if I get rid of all my cards. And then also they're worried about hurting themselves, which is why they press rest at a campfire when they're at 50 out of 71 HP. So, if you could learn anything, deal a little bit of damage to yourself. It's okay. Bludgeon is next. I don't think Bludgeon goes... It's like, honestly, Bludgeon's kind of like in like C- tier. It's kind of like C- for me. But it's kind of fucking C-, dude. This shit is not that good. I'll take it in Act 1. If I get it, if I see it in Act 1, fuck yeah, I'm going to take a fucking Bludgeon. If I have Snecko, fuck yeah, I'm going to take a Bludgeon. If I have Necronomicon, fuck yeah, I'm going to take a Bludgeon. But those are like such very specific situational things that I think that's where the C tier is kind of where those things live, to me. Is like... This is where the C tier is kind of like, these are so hyper-situational that I'm not taking them often enough to make them insanely goated, but they're not bad. Like, being able to deal 42 damage when upgraded for 3 mana is really good. 42 damage insta-kills most enemies in Act 1 and 2. That's amazing! Without some things that work around it and synergize with it, without it doing much more. That's why Sunder is insane. Yeah, Sunder is really good because it pays for itself. It has the Sunder is what is often compared to is the defect card that deals 3 damage, 24 or 3 mana, 24 damage, or 32 damage upgraded. But when you kill something with the card, you get your energy back. So it synergizes with itself. Bludgeon doesn't have that, so you need other tools. And so yeah, it's just it's not that good. And then we get to mother effing Body Slam. And Body Slam I put in D tier because Body Slam is good in 1 run. You want Body Slam at 1 point. Other than that, I'm really not taking Body Slam. There's 1 time that I want to take Body Slam, and it's after I got my Barricade shit going on. And most of the time, I don't need the body slam. Most of the time, when I have a barricade run happening, I don't need body slam. I think it could be justified at going up into C tier. I think people could. I think you can make an argument for it. I think that maybe I underrate body slam. That's fine. But this is how I genuinely feel. Is by the time that I need a body slam, I have an infinitely scaling block deck or something that holds like 400 block consistently. And then I'm just like, yeah, I don't really need a body slam. I could chip away with just strikes and angers and a blood for blood. And I don't need this body slam. And most of the time, I'm annoyed at seeing body slam because it's a fucking common card. So it shows up so goddamn often when I don't want it. And if it's taking up a slot of another card that I would rather have, I'm kind of fucking annoyed at it. And I just want to stop fucking seeing it. So that shit is butt. So I think we have to think about that. Is the fact that that shit is butt. I think body slam in D tier is fair. Your reasoning for bludgeon in C though is situational, but it's got a few cases where you would want it. Okay, so let's think about this. You see bludgeon far less often, so I get less annoyed with seeing bludgeon. 2, if I see bludgeon in Act 1, I'm most likely going to take a bludgeon in Act 1. If I see a body slam in Act 1, I'm most likely not taking a body slam in Act 1. So therefore, bludgeon to me has a lot, 1/3 of runs. Bludgeon is quite useful. Body slam is useful in very hyper-specific situations. Next up is brutality. If you want to get controversial about this, I think this is going to be a very controversial card here for Twitch chat. I'm going to actually sit here for a second, and I'm going to wait and see what Twitch chat rates brutality as. I'm not seeing really any S tiers, but I'm seeing A's through F. And I think that I'm a little bit wishy-washy on this card. And let me explain why. This is a way that I have explained this card for a really long time. If I draw 5 cards every turn, okay? If let's say this is a deck that I don't have brutality in, and then this is a deck that I have brutality in. On turn 1, I draw 5 cards. On turn 1 of the do, I draw 5 plus a brutality, right? On turn 2, I draw 5 cards. On turn 2, I've played the brutality. I now draw 6 cards. But in terms of the amount of cards that I've drawn the same amount of cards. I've drawn 10 cards in 2 turns, just like I've drawn 10 cards in 2 turns with the brutality. Because the brutality on turn 2 is only making me draw the card that I would have drawn if I didn't have brutality in the deck. On turn 3, it finally draws me an additional 6th card, and it draws me 1 additional card than if I didn't have it. And most hallway fights in Act 1 and Act 2, and even a lot of them in Act 3, only last for like 5 turns. Like, not a lot of them, just random hallway fights, go crazy far. But it's an insane tool in boss fights. It synergizes with a few things. The things that it synergizes outside of like blood for blood are like kind of meh. So I think it's a fine card, but as a rare card, it kind of is lacking as a rare card to me. This is my opinion on it. I love cube brutality. Yeah, no, again, I think that this card, to me, I think that is B tier. Because I think it synergizes a little bit better than Bludgeon. Just a little bit better than Bludgeon. And it's easier to get off. It's easier to, again, I'm still always probably going to take one in like, if I see it in Act 1 and there's nothing else that, like, if I just get it in a random card reward in Act 1 and it's like brutality up against 2 meh things, am I probably going to take a brutality? Yeah. Because it can be useful into a boss fight that's going to go for 10 to 15 turns. And it's not easy it's pretty easy for me to deal with the health loss from it. But then it like has anti-synergy with other things in the future. Like if I get like a fossilized helix or something, and then it can kind of suck. Or if you get like a Centennial puzzle and it procs when you don't want to proc it. But like it's like nitpicky and like we're getting down to the nitty gritty. I think it's B tier. I think I can take it a decent amount of times. I think I can be safe with slotting it in and it not feeling like a curse, right? Bludgeon, I think the distinction between something like this and Bludgeon is if I'm in a fight where I'm not going to play Bludgeon, it feels terrible. If I'm in a fight where Brutality isn't going to pop off, it feels like minus 2 HP. Now, the turns that it might replace a block card in my hand that would have been the difference between blocking an attack and not blocking attack, sure, it can cost you more HP, but that's speculative, and I don't feel like caring about that. Next up, Burning Pact. Burning Pact exhaust 1 card, draw 2, or draw. Burning Pact is definitely a card that the later on into the game that you go, it's way fucking better, right? Early on, spending 1 mana to draw 2 cards when my deck is full of starter cards is meh. But then by the time that I get to the Act 1 boss, it's not as bad. But by the time I get to the Act 2 boss, holy shit. I got more energy. I got more ways to manipulate. I got cards that I don't want in the deck anymore, but I don't have enough removes in order to remove them. Or the boss is giving me status cards and I need to fight against that. Or I'm giving myself status cards and I need to fight against that. Or I want to lower my deck down to being minus or under 10 cards so that I can fill up my hand and I can go infinite with Pommel Strike Sundial. I think Burning Pact to me is on the cusp of A to S, and I'm genuinely up in the air of where I want to put it. If I could tilt this shit sideways and I could put it on the border, I would. Let me think with my brain real quick. Hold on. What would Seknar do? What would Seknar do? What would Seknar do? What would Seknar do? He just called me a slur. What the hell? Anyways, I would put this in S tier. Because I think you can easily slot a Burning Pact into every single deck that you play. You just might not take it as your first card ward in Act 1, but I think by the end of Act 1, you can take one, and in every single run, you can slot Burning Pact in. Would you ever take multiple? All the time. Yes. All the time I take multiple in a run. I think you more often will take multiple Burning Pacts than you do Battle Trances. More often than you... yes, more often than you would take Bloodletting. You would take multiple Bloodlettings. How much do you value upgrading Burning Pact? Honestly, not that much. I think it's mainly because it's already draw positive, but then also because Dark Embrace is something that you always want to take. And so it, like, kind of does its job for itself. Spoilers! What the hell? All right, next up, we got Carnage. The movie was kind of mid, but where would I put the card Carnage? Also mid. Because, again, it's something that you take when you need some damage, but it kind of just stinky McPoops the later on it goes. Like, I don't really care about having a Carnage late into Act... Like, I'm not usually taking a Carnage late into Act 2, and I'm pretty much never taking a Carnage in Act 3. Because if I got to Act 3 and I don't have... And I need a solid damage source. Jesus, man. But early on in the game, it's wonderful. Carnage is your Act 1 friend. This pile of bodies that it depicts on its card art is strictly it in Act 1. Main trade-off is that it will start your Lagavulin fights for you because you'll go into your elite fight being like, I have a Carnage. I have a big damage card. I can't wait to play my Bash and then play Carnage. And then on turn 1, you draw defend, 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 strike Carnage. And you're like, well, I have to start the Lagavulin fight or else I will not be able to kill it. And I cannot wait for me to get off Bash first because Carnage will exhaust itself, and that fucking sucks. Is it not a little bit higher because it exhausts itself later? No, because it's taking up draw. And I think draw order is extremely valuable. Even though it exhausts itself later for the later bosses so that you don't have to redraw, I think it's preventing you from getting your scaling engine off 1 card less. And a lot of the times I would just rather not have it. Next up, Cleave. This card, to me, is B tier because of how many times I take it. Because it's just a solution. It's just a solution, man. It's just a solution of I don't have AoE, I need to take AoE. Now, is it the greatest card? Am I going to be taking it late into the game if I don't have AoE and I'm about to go into a Reptomancer fight? Yes, absolutely I am. If I'm AoE-less and I'm like, damn, I want to take Act 3 Elites and I have nothing to deal with Reptomancer, I'm going to need to fucking Cleave. And the Ironclad tends to lack decent AoE options. You've got Whirlwind, which is pretty good, but usually you don't take it till later in the game. Reaper, that's a rare card, and you want to take when you have a lot of energy getting off. Immolate, but that's a rare card, and a lot of the times you take it when you see it stacked up against other rare cards at boss fights, and so you're like, damn, I would rather take an Impervious or a Demon Form or a Reaper over taking an Immolate. So Cleave, you just take in a lot of decks. So I gotta like Cleave, man. It's so simple, but it's a tool that the Ironclad has, and it's a tool that he needs. It's your vegetables. I agree. Cleave is the vegetables of the Ironclad. It's nothing super special in terms of flavor, but you add in a little bit of salt and spice and everything nice, and you got yourself a great meal. All right, next up is Clothesline. That's a D tier card. Any questions? I fucking hate this card. This card you only take in, like, Act 1, Floor 1 or 2, when no other common card that is an attack is available, and you're gonna need something as another card in order to deal with Act 1. This shit is fucking ass. And I think it would be better if the Ironclad didn't have a lot of access to weakening, but the Ironclad is a character that surprisingly has a crazy amount of access to weakening. Uppercut, Shockwave, Intimidate, fucking Champions Bout. Like, the Ironclad just does weakening really, really, really well. But Intimidate sucks. I'm not saying that Intimidate doesn't suck. I'm saying that this card sucks, and there's other ways to get off the... Shut up, chatters! Don't talk to me ever again, okay? Yeah, Intimidate. No, Intimidate, I think, is better, honestly, than Clothesline, personally, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it even sucks in Act 1, because Act 1, you feel a little bit scared to take a lot of 2-cost cards, because Bash sucks, but you want to play Bash every single time that you draw it in Act 1. But when you have to decide between playing Bash and Clothesline, Clothesline almost always wins out, and it just feels weak and bad. And then it's just meh. But if you get Necronomicon, every other 2-cost attack feels better to play with Necronomicon. Change my mind, except maybe Fiendfire when you don't have a way to get it up twice. Every other 2-cost attack that the Ironclad has feels 2 to 3-cost attack feels better to play. Because, like, Bash scales itself. Uppercut scales itself. Immolate, big AoE. Perfected Strike probably deals more damage. Carnage deals more damage. Like, Sever Soul, man, probably is going to do some cool things with Exhausting. Combust! Deal 1 damage to yourself, and then deal 5 damage to the enemy. This shit going in D tier. It's really good early game for AoE. It can be a scaling thing for your Rupture runs, but that's, like, kind of mid in and of itself. It doesn't do enough later in the game to deal with the Reptomancer's ads. And goddamn, is it so anti-synergistic with so many things in the game. Centennial Puzzle is a common fucking relic and one of the best relics at that in the game in the common tier. But it's anti-synergistic with it, man. Anti-synergistic with Runic Cube is so fucking butt from a poop tier, man. It eats up your fucking fossilized helix. It eats up all your shit. Is stupid. Is bad. Not good. Is okay at taking, sometimes, again, early on in the game. I'd put it at the high of D tier. I put it high up in D tier because you can take it early on in the game to make you feel good about yourself and to get you through Act 1 sometimes. If you're against, like, Tri-Sentries, if you fight Tri-Sentries 2 times in Act 1 and you're fighting Slime Boss, okay, maybe you like Combust. Should have just taken Fire Breathing, but maybe you like Combust, right? It just kind of... Now with Corruption, which we obviously know is now a rare card. Dark Embrace is a common card. This is just an old tier list. Corruption's S tier. It's almost always a take. It is, and even though sometimes it's not a take because you don't feel like you can get Corruption off or your deck already is working, it is one of the most powerful single effects in the entire game. It is. It is one of the most powerful cards in all of Slay the Spire. Damn, dudes, I'm on a goddamn train now because you guys are moving so goddamn fast. I'm going to be rating cards from a fucking train for the next few minutes? All right. A lot of newer players will be really scared of taking Corruption because they're like, oh my god, my entire deck is going to exhaust. And I understand that. But that is a fear that you need to fucking get over. It's a single-player game. You can lose, and that's okay. There's no ranked leaderboards of Slay the Spire. I highly recommend you take things that make you feel uncomfortable because I guarantee you're going to have an incredibly fun run. And then you'll learn that Corruption is one of the great things if you can pull it off, which you more often than not can. It's really hard in Act 1, but the later that your run goes, it's so fucking good. And it is paired great with its partner, Dark Embrace. Dark Embrace, also S tier. Also, notably, just as a fun thing, Dark Embrace and Feel No Pain, I think, are 2 of the best cards in the entire game. Simply for the reason that on any character, if you had Dark Embrace and a Feel No Pain, they would still be must-takes. like, regardless of whether or not you had corruption or anything like that, like, Dark Embrace and Feel No Pain are, when I do my Giga Prismatics challenge, Dark Embrace and Feel No Pain are still must-takes on every single thing. Hey, Defend's here. Nice. Next up, Demon Form.
I'm a demon, and I can take form.
Demon Form is definitely a fan favorite, mainly because you get to see the Ironclad shirtless. And I think it's like the top of B tier. I think it's the top going into the cusp of A tier. I think in terms of rare cards, it's really good. I mean, its effect is extremely powerful. It can feel really difficult in the early game to be able to pull off effectively, unless you have a lot of combo pieces. But it's a boss killing tool, and it's insanely strong in any sort of strength deck that you can get. I do think that it is one of the biggest noob traps in the game, but I wouldn't quite put it in A tier because I'm not snap picking it in every single run that I get. I don't think it's slottable in every single deck. Because if I'm doing big bonks or I'm doing big block, what the fuck do I need strength for? I don't always need a demon form in my deck. But it's good. It's really, really strong. But I think maybe people take it a little bit too often. Sorry. I've hit my mid-tier list slump. I'm getting tired of yapping. But let's move on to Disarm. Disarm. A card that I think I used to rate really fucking highly. I think I used to rate this card insanely, insanely highly. It is the best beta art in the game. And I think that you can put one in every deck. I think you can put a Disarm into most decks. I just think you skip it a lot more over other more useful things that are going to make your deck go round. And then later on, you're like, oh, I have a lot of exhaust synergy. Yeah, we'll take a Disarm. Oh, I need a tool to be able to deal with a couple of turns of the hard fight. Yeah, I'll take a Disarm. Oh, I'm in Act 2, and I don't really have anything that scales against Stabby Book. Yeah, I'll take a Disarm. You know? It's just a card. It's a good card, but I used to think I valued it way too highly. I think I used to value this card way too highly. And nowadays, I just find myself taking things over it, especially in Act 1. It's really good into a lot of Act 1 bosses, into 2 out of the 3 Act 1 bosses. But I think you can just take other things over it a lot of the time. But it's really fucking good. I do think it's a really powerful effect. Really good in fights that it's really good in, and really bad in fights that it's really bad in. Double tap. More like double B, because the B's got 2 little humps. Am I right, guys? Double tap, more like double crap. I think it's really good in once you have a thing that you want to play it with, but you're not really ever going to be happy to take a double tap before you have something that you want to double tap. But a lot of really cool cards, you're not going to be able to double tap because your deck is full of like 20 plus cards and you don't have a way to manipulate around to being able to double tap the thing that you want to double tap. When you do have something to be able to double tap and you do have a way to manipulate it, or you do have like a few things that are pretty good to double tap, which I think happens more often. You know, you have a Blood for Blood and a Hemokinesis in your deck and an Immolate and a Dropkick and a, you know, you'll have like a number of things and you're like, okay, now I can take a double tap. And I think it's pretty good for that. I think it's pretty good in that realm when you have multiple decent things in your deck to be able to double tap. When you only have one thing, it's bad. When you have 0 things, it's terrible. If I see a double tapped early on in Act 1, I'm skipping it. Because what am I going to double tap a fucking strike when I draw 3 strikes in my turn, and for 3 energy, I'm going to play 2 strikes? Awesome. Dropkick. Dropkick I'd put in C tier. It's okay early on in the game to fill the slot kind of like Anger can, where you're just like needing to be able to deal more energy worth of damage early on. But then it can fall off very far when more enemies have artifacts, when you have a bigger deck, so you're less likely to be able to get off your vulnerable and keep your vulnerable by the time that you get to Dropkick. But it obviously opens up for a lot of synergizes with infinites, but it also is really good with double tap, I guess. Yeah, I don't find myself taking it in a lot of runs, and most of the time it just clogs the deck for after you've taken it early on in Act 1. I think that's kind of like the gist of C tier, is it's like, yeah, you're taking something in Act 1 that helps you out, and then eventually it just kind of makes you feel mid. Dual Wield! Now, this is a big one that I think, I don't remember where I put Dual Wield in the past, but if I had to guess, I probably rated it kind of poorly. Because I think the Dual Wield, if you're thinking about only dual wielding attacks, is bad. But if you're thinking it in terms of dual wielding powers, dual wield's incredible. And I like taking a dual wield in a lot of my runs. I like taking a lot. I end up late game taking dual wield. It's not useful usually in the early game unless you're like, okay, I'm going to stack a specific power, like a Feel No Pain, and that's how I'm going to defeat the boss. But yeah, I think dual wield is like, has such insane late game synergy that I'm taking it a lot. I feel like late game you have a large number of powers. Usually, you know, you'll want to duplicate a Dark Embrace or a Feel No Pain, or you'll want to duplicate something that is like a Reaper or a Feed. Dude, Feed dual wield is so fun, man. 250 max HP plus, man. You can duplicate Inflames. You can there's a lot of synergies with like Infernal Blades or creating zero cost attacks in another way, and then you duplicate them. There's a lot of ways to dual wield out to get an infinite. Dual wield's also really good because you can, it allows you to not take as many attack cards in your deck, have a low number of attack cards in your deck, so that you can then have a faster way to be able to build up your engine of blocking or attacking or, you know, whatever your thing is, your scaling stuff. And then once you've gotten all that stuff online in a boss fight, you then can duplicate one of the best cards, Blood for Blood. Dual wielding Blood for Blood is a common way that I win my heart fights, I feel like. So yeah, I think dual wield is very underrated and is quite good. Being able to dual wield something like Pommel sometimes can be really strong. Dual wielding something that's low cost early on in the game, like an Anger, can be really strong. Reckless Charge can be really strong just to be able to deal a big burst damage. Super good with Snecko Eye in terms of hallway fights of you drawing into a bunch of cards with a dual wield in your hand, and you dual wield whatever card happens to cost 0 that turn. Really fucking strong. Yeah. If you can't tell, I think the dual wield just synergizes in so many things. I think it's so versatile that it then creates itself into being S tier. It dual wield plus powers with Mummified Hand, insanely strong, because then it usually, if you dual wield and you make 3 powers in your hand, a lot of the time that power is then going to make your other power cost 0, which then you're just going to fucking combo into playing all the powers, and even though you don't have the energy to be able to play it all, Mummified Hand that allows you. There's just so much synergy that I think you're taking dual wield more often than you can think about it. Entrench is D tier. Because again, you're only taking Entrench in the exact same deck that you're taking Body Slam. You're only taking Entrench in a very specific deck. It's once you've gotten an insane runaway Barricade deck off, then you're like, okay, now I want Entrench. Now that I have all the other pieces to the pie, now I want Entrench. But it's also the same as Body Slam, where it's like, a lot of the times you don't even need it. A lot of the times you don't fucking need it, man. A lot of the times you're already like the heart. If in order to beat the heart in like like 6 turns or whatever, it like 6 to 8 turns, you need like 250, 300 block, and you can get that from exhausting a bunch of cards with Feel No Pains. You can get that from Imperviouses. You can get there already without needing an Entrench. Entrench is just, I can do it faster and better and more consistently and easier and with less RNG, and it can make your deck really, really strong. But most of the time, you're just like, damn, I'm seeing another damn Entrench, man. Evolve! An extremely powerful effect. Whenever you draw a status card, draw 1 or 2 cards. Poop, butt, fart. It's like, meh. I don't see myself taking it. I think you could say that you could put it into B tier. I think you could justify it being in B tier. Yeah, let's put it in. Meh. 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 Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it here. I want to take it in a lot of runs, but take it. I think taking Evolve just to play against the enemies feels bad. I think that it's really good into the heart. I think if you can get an Evolve for the heart fight, sure. Or if you can get an Evolve and it's a tool for specific fights that you feel like you're going to have trouble dealing with, I think it's a really good tool. But taking it because the enemies give you statuses, I think just, for me, doesn't feel like enough, because half the time it's going to be on the bottom of your deck. And then, like, I think one of the better fights that it can be strong against is, like, the Chosen. But sometimes you'll be like, you'll bottom deck Evolve against the Chosen, and you're bottom decking it along with 3 other Dazes, and also the Chosen's dealing like 24 damage to you on that turn, and it just feels like dog shit. It's really, I think it's really good late game when you have a lot of status cards or in like very specific builds. But I just, this whole tier list is built around bottom decking cards. It's built for bottoms by a bottom. Shut up, Midwest Jeff. Just because you're some fucking power top that's gonna be able to treat me right and make me feel safe while also pounding me into the fucking pillow doesn't mean that I have to respect your opinions. Jesus! Anyways, guys, I think Exhume is S tier. I don't think I need to say much about Exhume. This card used to be like the most powerful card in the game way back in the day because you used to be able to Exhume and Exhume. And they had to patch that out. And still to this day, people just ask me randomly. They're just like, wait, can you Exhume? Nah, you can't do that. Exhaust is an effect that is added to cards that are too strong that the game thinks that you should only be able to play them once. So being able to play them again is really good. And Exhume is like having a second copy, in theory, of every single one of your exhaust cards at the same time. It's Pandora's exhaust card, right? If you have a Disarm, now you have 2 Disarms. If you have a Fiend Fire, now you can have 2 Fiend Fire. You have a Feed, now you have 2 Feeds. If you have a Limit Break, now you have 2 Limit Breaks. Because in each fight, you can decide, what do I need 2 of right now? More apparitions. Holy shit, absolutely. Yeah, Exhume is absolutely S tier. Feed! Oh, Feed. Oh, Feed. Feed is a card that I'm going to contradict myself a little bit with. I'm going to contradict myself a little bit with Feed. I'm going to put it in S tier. But I might not take it in every single run. But on the runs that you do take it on, and I think you take it a lot. I think you take it most of the time that you see a Feed. Now, stacked up against other rare cards, sometimes you're like, oh, I need damage here, and so I can't afford to take a Feed, so I have to take something like a Fiend Fire or an Immolate, right? Because your deck needs the ability to kill the enemies, and it can't set up a Feed effectively without sacrificing all of its HP. But Feed this is an insanely powerful effect. Disgusting. And I think you can take it more often than you think later on in runs. You could get it from like the Act 2 boss and be like, oh, I only have 1 act left to feed. I think that's amazing. I think that's, unless you have something else that you're already trying to set up for the end of the fights, like a ritual dagger or something. Like unless you're already trying to set something else up, I think that Feed is bonkers OP. HP is a resource. And if you roll into the heart fight with plus 40 HP from an act, from the final act, even just playing it lazily in Act 3 and Act 3 and / Act 4, just plus 40 HP is insane. Feel no pain. S tier. If you can't tell, the Ironclad's kind of a powerful character. He's got a lot of things. Feel no pain. It's an S tier card. It's so fucking good. You don't say. Yeah, the Ironclad's really fucking easy, man. I'll tell you, this character is easy as hell. Everything on this character exhausts. He literally wants to burn everything to the fucking ground. Most status cards exhaust. The enemy gives you statuses, countered. Now it's my status of status. Write it on Facebook. I'm strong, bro. This is a snap pick. This, I think I get more dopamine from seeing than Defragment Plus. I get more dopamine from seeing a Feel No Pain minus than a Defragment Plus. And there's a lot of dopamine there, man. There's a lot of dopamine. And again, just to reiterate, I think Dark Embrace and Feel No Pain are 2 of the most powerful cards in the entire game. That if you put these 2 cards on any single character and you want them, you will snap pick these cards on almost every single character. You'll be taking Dark Embrace and Feel No Pains all of the time. Think about Shiv synergies. Think about like the Watcher with like Miracle synergies. You think about the Defect with so many cards that wait, what does the Defect have? I think the Defect could probably get without a Feel No Pain, but would definitely want a Dark Embrace. I think Les wants Feel No Pain, definitely wants Dark Embrace. Fiend Fire! I just like the name of this card. I like being a little fiend. Fiend Fire is 2 mana, deal 60 damage a lot of the time. Because if you have it upgraded to the enemy's vulnerable, which again, they are often, it is 2 mana, 60 damage. That already is crazy. Pair that with a Dark Embrace. I'm Dark Embracing your shit. Paired that with Battle Trance early on. I'm 10 steps ahead of the Spire. You paired that with an Evolve synergy. I'm 40 steps ahead of the Spire. I dual wield a couple of cards in my hand. I'm 95 steps ahead. I got Offering. I've already had 3 days since you've had 1 day. You paired that with a fucking Powered Through. I'm light years ahead of you. This card's S tier. Sorry, I was doing the meme. Do you guys know the meme where the guy says that he broke up his days into 3 different days?
I measure time. I've compressed and condensed time. I've bent it. My day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm gonna kick your butt. Stack it up over a year, you're toast. Stack it up over 5 years, my entire life is different than it would have been otherwise.
Jesus Christ, he's so insane. All right, next up we got Fire Breathing. That's a D tier card. I think it's pretty much, it's D tier. It's D tier card. I think you take Fire Breathing in one place. You take Fire Breathing one time. Are you in Act 1? Are you against the Slime Boss? If so, congratulations, you've just defeated Slime Boss. Fire Breathing is the sole defeater of Slime Boss. Other than that, it helps in a lot of fights. Helps with the Slavers, helps with Tri-Sentries, helps with the Chosen. Helps in a lot of fights. Better or worse than Combust, would you say? I think that it is better to take, worse to transform into. All right, next up. Flame Barrier, aka Derriere, because that flames just looks like a big fart to me. Anyways, I put Flame Barrier in A tier. I think this card's amazing. I think this card's really fucking good early game. Counters a lot of Act 1 bosses. As the game goes on, the enemies tend to deal more multi-attacks. So it just gets better the later on that the game goes. It just scales against your will. Thorns get better. Amazing into the heart, amazing into a lot of elite combats, amazing into a number of boss combats, and it just synergizes with a lot of these cards up in S tier, right? Corruption, Dark Embrace, Feel No Pain. Fuck yeah, give me infinite number of Flame Barriers. Burning Pact, oh, I don't need Flame Barrier in this fight. It's a Burning Pact target. Battle Trance into a Flame Barrier, hell yeah. Bloodletting helps me play my Flame Barrier. Barricade, love a Flame Barrier. You take it all the time. Flex, I'm gonna do something right now, and it's gonna fuck up your brain. I do this every single time that we talk about Flex, because I get asked about Flex quite frequently. I'm not officially putting it in C tier. But if you look at the card, to me, this card looks like the bicep is concave. Like it is curving inwards. And once your brain flips and you can see it like that, you can never unsee it. And I've always seen it as concave and not as puffing outwards. Where would I actually put Flex is my question. I think that Flex minus is an F tier card. I think Flex Plus is like a C tier or B tier card. I think Flex Plus is like a B tier card. But that's the problem, is you've got to see a Flex Plus. And a lot of times, when are you going to see a Flex Plus? When you have when you have egg. When you have your toxic egg. And when you have toxic egg and everything is already upgraded, it's meh, because everything is already upgraded. Or you see it in Act 3 when you have a higher chance of seeing upgraded cards. But then by that time, you already have your scaling engine. You already kind of have your identity of your deck. So I think I would put it in like the very, 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 very bottom of C tier. Because, dude, a Flex Plus, like if you are forced to take a Flex early on, like let's say your first combat has butt cheeks, Flex. And you're like, fuck, I should take a Flex because I should take something, right? So you take a Flex. Get to the first campfire, there's nothing else to upgrade. You're like, okay, a Flex is a good upgrade. It's a good upgrade because it makes it a good card. I think you're a happy camper with the deck. And I think Flex remains a happy camper type card, right? Regardless. And it synergizes with things like Limit Break, obviously, and Artifact, and with pellets, things like that. It has some synergies that are really good. But I think it's a fine card. You're not super upset when you transform into it. Like if you transform in Act 2 and you get the Transform 2 event, you're not super upset if you transform a strike into a Flex, right? It's easy to play. You probably have some sort of multi-hit attack, maybe. Good chance of it. It's not bad. Next up, we have Ghostly Armor. And I think I'd kind of put Ghostly Armor in, like, the same place. Maybe you could consider Ghostly Armor in B tier because of how often you take it in Act 1. But again, all the cards that we're taking in Act 1 are kind of right here, you know? These are kind of like Act 1 cards. I think Ghostly Armor kind of fits into that. It's an Act 1 block card. It's literally, I think, the counterpart to Carnage, right? It's the card that is really good for the amount of energy in terms of what it does, and it's also ethereal. It's pretty good. And again, you're not upset if you transform into it, and it's fine. A shmeep shmop card, if you will. A bit of a shmeep, a bit of a shmop. Next up, we have Havoc. I think Havoc is D tier. I think there are a lot of times that you can take Havoc, or that you're not upset for having a Havoc, or, you know, but I think more often than not, Havoc is bad. It's not like when you transform into a Ghostly Armor or a Flex that you're like, oh, it's just a card. I play it sometimes. Havoc is actively detrimental to your deck because it makes you play things when you don't want to play them, and sometimes you feel desperate, and so you're like, fuck, I need to Havoc here, but it might play my feed, and then my feed on 100 HP target, and then it gets rid of my good shit, or it exhausts my blood for blood on turn 1, and then I don't have anything that's going to be able to deal damage. It can be synergistic with certain things, but there's just so many better ways to get off the things that you want to get off. In order to get off a demon form with a Havoc, you have to have drawn demon form, put it in your discard pile. Then I have to have a Headbutt in my hand at the same time as my Havoc. Then I Headbutt, and then I play Havoc. And now I've wasted 2 cards and 2 energy or 1 energy on playing poop from a butt. So yeah, I do not find a lot of use for this card. I am mad when I see it all the time. Again, it's another one of those common cards that you're going to see a lot, and because common cards show up often, and you're just going to skip it. It's like a Body Slam. It's like a Flex. You're just going to just click away. Keep going. Yep. Okay. Not a card I can take. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. It's just meh. It has some places where you can use it, but other than that, you're just annoyed. Headbutt! I think Headbutt is like the most tippity top of A tier that you can possibly get. It could possibly even be S tier, but I'm not going to put it in S tier because it is a common card that I'm rarely taking multiple of. Sometimes you take multiple of it early because you're just like, okay, I'm getting a lot of strike pluses, and I need to be able to deal enough damage with vulnerable and whatever. But I think that you could always fit a Headbutt into your deck. I think you're always taking a Headbutt. I think that Headbutt is an extremely powerful effect, very similar to something like a Hologram, where you just get to take something from your discard pile and you get to play it again very, very soon. It's obviously slightly worse than a Hologram in the fact that it puts it in on the top of your draw pile, but there's a lot of things that you can do with that. So you can do it at the end of your turn to be able to set up for a better next turn. You can use it with Havoc. Oh my god! But yeah, I think Headbutt is useful from all points of the game. A lot of the times you have a key card in your deck, like Burning Pact, Bloodletting, Battle Trance. I'm just looking at that top bar where you want to play it every turn. Like, it's a key card to be able to get off your shit. So being able to, like, set up for next turn, okay, I Battle Trance this turn, and then I'm going to Headbutt back to Battle Trance so I can have that same amount of power next turn. You just keep doing it over and over and over again. It's really, really solid for being able to do that sort of thing. Headbutt's really solid. But I think just from the fact that I'm usually annoyed with seeing it later on in the game because I already have my Headbutt for the run and I don't want another Headbutt, I don't think it makes it into S tier. But really, 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 really good. Really, really solid. Heavy motherfucking Blade, dude. Heavy motherfucking Blade goes into heavy motherfucking C tier to me. Honestly, maybe even D tier, but I've kind of been coming around to this card a little bit lately. Maybe I put it in D tier because of how little I take this card. But I think that I might... I gotta think for a second on this shit. I'm putting it in D tier. And let me explain why I'm putting it in D tier. It doesn't fit into the bonk category, right? A bonk is not something that just deals a lot of damage. It's not a bonk. A bonk is something that deals a lot of damage for a significant amount of energy. And Heavy Blade does not always deal a significant amount of damage. So it is not always a bonk. It sometimes can deal bonk levels of damage, but so can a fucking strike, man. I would not be taking this card a lot of the time in Act 1 like my other bonky friends. And by the time that I would take a Heavy Blade, I feel like I've probably either one, already taken other cards that might synergize. We got Fiend Fire. Just cards in general, if you get enough strength, also can just work well, right? Like, I think Anger synergizes really well with a lot of strength gain. But also, you at a point, you get enough strength gain where you don't even need things that synergize with strength gain, right? Like, you don't even really need a card that synergizes well with strength gain. By the time that you have 150 strength, by that time, you can take a 0-cost body slam. Chat's already told me. So yeah, I think I would put it in D tier. Sometimes it can be really strong. And I think that that's the beauty of Slay the Spire, is that every single card on this tier list is playable, is takeable. Next up, we got Hemokinesis. And I think Hemokinesis is the epitome of B tier, where early on in the game, oh my God, I love a Hemokinesis, man. I love a Hemokinesis. This shit is beautiful early on in the game. It has been buffed since this, I'm pretty sure, right? It's now just 2 damage flat all the time. But yeah, it's an excellent Act 1, Act 2 card. I would rate it higher above these because I'm actively able to fit it into the rest of my deck. It continuously has synergies with a lot of other things like Blood for Blood. It will have synergies with the other things that a lot of the damage cards will have synergies with, like Runic Cube or like Centennial Puzzle. It is, I still think that's something that you can use for significant points of damage later on into the game in order to be able to take down targets. Usually that HP loss is nominal if you have a successful scaled deck. So because of its low energy cost, I think it just remains a really, really strong card throughout the entirety of your run. Next up, we got Immolate, baby. I think chat really likes Immolate. If I had to guess, I'm not officially putting it in B tier, by the way. I'm just putting it out on the screen. I think chat really likes Immolate because every single time that I see Immolate on my screen in the game, chat always is like, wait, could you fit an Immolate here? Is it ever like an Immolate? See, I don't think it's S tier. I think it's far from S tier. Because I think S tier cards are reserved for cards that like make your runs. And I don't think Immolate's making my runs by any chance. But I do agree that it's probably A tier. That I think that you can fit an Immolate into almost every single deck that you have. But the problem with Immolate is that you tend to not take it nearly as much, because it's slotted up against cards that are making your deck, right? You've got your Corruptions, your Exhumes, your Feeds, your Fiend Fires, your Barricades, even your Demon Forms, right? You'll see it slotted up against that after a boss fight. And it's like, okay, do I want something that makes my run go crazy mode? Or do I want a card that just does good shit and helps me get through the next couple of fights? And I think that if I see Immolate from a card reward that isn't a boss fight, fuck yeah, give me an Immolate. But I think you just don't take it in enough runs because you see it at a boss reward, and you're just usually going to take other things. But I agree. It's an A tier card. Also, chat, we have ads incoming in 20 seconds. If you don't want to see those ads, please consider subscribing. If you have a Prime sub, you can just check. There's a checkbox available, and I would love your Prime. I'd kiss you for a Prime. But I will be taking a break during the ad break, so don't worry. You won't miss anything before then, though. I'm going to real quick just put Impervious in S tier. I don't think we need to argue about that. That card's just kind of busted. I don't really know why it exists. It's kind of good. You snap pick Impervious like 9 times out of 10. Yeah. You can always take multiple Imperviouses. I don't think we need to justify why Impervious is an S tier. That shit's goated. Infernal Blade. At a random attack into your hand, it costs 0 this turn. Infernal Blade, to me, is kind of poop from a butt. But I think that I also might be somebody that hates Infernal Blade more than it's actually terribly bad. Because whenever I transform into Infernal Blade, I'm never upset to have an Infernal Blade in my deck. But I never want to take an Infernal Blade over other cards because more cards tend to be good. Like, other cards tend to be better. And I never like, damn, right now I could really use it. Like, I need a damage card, and I'm going to entrust Infernal Blade to be that damage card. Like, very, very, very rarely do I feel like I'm ever in that spot. And so for that reason, I think I put it in D tier. Where it's like, if I get it forced into my deck, I'm not super upset about it, but I'm never really clicking Infernal Blade. I don't know. And half the time, it just gives you, like, a fucking Wild Strike, and then you're like, wow, this is worse. This is terrible. Or it gives you, like, a fucking Searing Blow, and you're like, damn, this fucking sucks. Or it gives you a Perfected Strike, and you're like, ah, shit, it's late game, and now this does 6 damage. This kind of sucks. Next up, Inflame. Infernal Blade again. Inflame. Gives you some strength, man. If I'm doing a bonk deck, right, if I'm bludgeoning, I'm carnaging, I'm blood for blooding. What the fuck do I care about 2 strength? What do I care if my bludgeon does 42 damage or 44 damage? What the fuck do I care if my blood for blood does 22 damage or 24 damage? Some would say that 22 damage is better. Some would say that. But I do think that Inflame is such a good start to a run that I gotta put it in A tier. If I see an Inflame early on, or if I haven't gone big bonk mode yet, and I see an Inflame show up, time to go crazy. But I do tend to think that it is hard to slot in more than one Infernal Blade. Or, sorry, Infernal Blade. Inflame! Inflame! Next up, Intimidate. Chat seems to hate this card. Chat, where would you guys put Intimidate? There's a lot more B tiers than I thought. A lot more B tiers. In a trash can? What the hell? It's arguably one of the cutest arts on the whole damn thing. They're cute. They're like, no, don't hurt me. I'm just a little slime. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you go down to give it a pet and it bites your arm off. So I think we could probably agree that Intimidate is better than Clothesline. It synergizes with a lot of Ironclad's best cards like Dark Embrace and Feel No Pain. Doesn't exactly synergize super well with Exhume. Does synergize with having a lot of draw in your deck. Because when you draw a lot, you don't mind drawing and Intimidate. I think that Intimidate is C tier. Let me explain. I think it is extremely similar to Flex. I'm not adding one to my deck unless it's upgraded, but I'm not upset if I transform into it. It probably just sits there and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. I think it's slightly better than Flex because I think that Weakening is far more valuable, especially later in the game when enemies are doing bigger damage. But I think it's a C tier Weaken card. Because I think most cards that you see in Card Awards, you're just going to think are better. Or by the time that you start seeing it frequently because it's uncommon, you're like, I kind of already have my shit together. I don't really need to Intimidate. And honestly, I think that because it exhausts, it's so much weaker. I think its weakest part is that it exhausts. If this shit was 0 mana, apply Weaken to all enemies, and it don't exhaust, it'd be one of the strongest cards in the fucking game. That's Blind Plus. That shit's nasty. It's hard to get a Blind Plus, and I love a Blind Plus. That shit's super good. Honestly, it's one of those cards that sucks because it exhausts, but by the time you get all the exhaust synergies, you don't really care to have it, because by that time, you're doing a lot more. Chat, we got Iron Wave. Iron Wave's a B tier card. I love seeing an Iron Wave early on in a run. If I'm gonna have to take a Strike Plus, Iron Wave's so good. It's not as good as like Daesh on the Silent for sure. I think in Act 1, you can almost always slot in one Iron Wave. The only problem is that it feels really bad the later on that you go into the game if it's not an Iron Wave Plus. But Iron Wave is insanely good in Act 1 versus the Act 1 Elites. It gets worse as you get towards the boss. And then in Act 2, again, it performs really, really well in hallway fights, but kind of falls off in elite fights. But yeah, it not being upgraded and just being kind of worse than a Strike in terms of damage, it's kind of mid later on in the game, and it feels a little bit bad. But yeah, I think Iron Wave is pretty good. Pretty good. Next up, we have another rare card, Juggernaut. Juggernaut, I think, might be one of the more overrated cards that the Ironclad has. And just judging by people coming out immediately and saying B or A tier, I think it's a C tier card. I think that it honestly, wait, is it D tier? I don't think it's D tier because too many times does it become a Juggernaut deck. And I think that it can be a synergy that you play around. But like, it feels terrible to take a Juggernaut early on in the game. If you transform into, you're like, okay, I'll try to make a Juggernaut work. But like half the time, I feel like you should just abandon the Juggernaut line and just move on. A lot of times it can feel win more. Like you already have a lot of stuff going on. And then Juggernaut just kind of fits in and allows you to do more faster. It relies on so many synergies. And it costs so much to get in play. It's very similar to like 1,000 Cuts on the Silent. I think it's a little bit better than 1,000 Cuts on the Silent. But it's very similar to 1,000 Cuts in both the cost and that being like difficult to get into play and then also synergize with that turn. And then by the time that 1,000 Cuts might be really good for your deck, you're probably just doing plenty of other things. And so I think that the usefulness of Juggernaut is so slim. But when it works, man, when it works, when you got the fucking Feel No Pain, double damage on every single fucking card, ooh, it's good, man. Ooh, it goes crazy. So I think I'd put it like middle of the pack in C tier. Limit Break. Now, if we want to talk about overrated cards, I think if I didn't say anything right now, a lot of people would be putting this shit in S tier. Maybe I'm wrong. I think this thing is the bottom of B tier. I think it's the very, very, very bottom of B tier. it honestly might be the top of C tier. Yeah, I'm putting it in the top of C tier. I think it's a C+ card. I think it's the top of C tier. Because if you get it early or you see it early, you're like, fuck, I shouldn't pass up a fucking limit break, man. Right? Because, like, if I do get strength, it's more strength. And that's awesome. But if I get an Inflame, you know what is also more strength? A second Inflame. So, like, until you get some sort of significant number that makes the limit break go crazy mode, it doesn't even go crazy. Unupgraded it's C tier, upgraded it's B or A. See, here's the thing. I fucking disagree with that heavy. I think that if you have like 8 strength in a fight, that's like the most amount of strength that you really need to go crazy mode. Like past that, unless you don't have cards that scale with strength, unless you don't have like pummels and sword boomerangs and things like that, like, you really only need to play Limit Break one time for it to be really good in most decks. So I don't think it necessarily gets that much better when you can play it multiple times in a fight. Sometimes it is. Sometimes. But then, after you play it, like 2 or 3 times, it's then fucking pointless. When you have 50 fucking strength, why do I need 100? Why do I need 200? But it's extremely powerful for what it does, but it requires setup. And if you don't get the setup, in terms of the cards actually added to your deck, it can feel terrible. And then, if you do have it, and then you draw it before the cards that give you strength, it feels terrible. God forbid you have it with a flex, and then it feels even more terrible. Or sometimes you get in a fight where, oh, this turn I need to play my Impervious, and so I can't get off my strength card because I drew it on the same turn and I need to play this other thing. So then you fucking cycle your entire deck, and for 2 cycles, this limit break is just doing fucking nothing. So yeah, I think limit break is highly overrated. All right, next up, Metallicize. We talked earlier about how at the beginning of this run, when we talked about blood for blood, all the way back in the B's, we're all the way down to the M's now. The game just does chip damage to you a lot early on in the game. The game is built like that. Cultist does 6 damage, then 11 damage, then 16 damage, right? It's right above your block point. The Jawworm does 12 damage on turn 1. The fucking Slavers deal 13 damage or 14 damage or 8 damage. You know, it's above the block point where it sometimes doesn't feel good enough to play another block card because you can trade it for damage, and that's where Metallicize can come in. I think Metallicize can fit in early game to just keep you a little bit healthier than you would have originally thought, but it adds up over the course of the entirety of the run. And I wish that there was a mod that would track how much damage just specifically Metallicize blocked. And maybe there is, and maybe one of those stats mods does, and I don't even fucking know, but I want to know just how much did this one specific Metallicize block, because it's really fucking good in the early to mid game. And then obviously the later in the game that it goes. But usually in the later in the game, you can deal with having one card that gives you 4 block a turn. It's not the worst thing in the world later on in the game. And it's also a power, so once you play it, it's gone. But it can be obviously bad against like Awakened One, etc. But it's fantastic. Oh yeah, also copying Metallicize with Dual Wield could be a fun little goofy combo, but I don't think it oftentimes goes super crazy mode because it takes a little bit long. Would Metallicize Plus be better if it costed 0 instead of blocking for 4? No, I don't think so actually. But yeah, I think Metallicize is better than a lot of people think in the early to mid game. But I also think that you oftentimes are going to be taking other things over it because a lot of the early game is damage racing. So I feel like you don't take it nearly as often as possible because you're worried that, oh, I need a damage card now, and it's Metallicize or my damage card, and in the next 2 combats, I might not get another damage card, and so I should take the damage card now. Yeah. Anyways, Offering's S tier, we know that. This card is insane. This card is bonkers. You always can have, like, 3 Offerings in your deck and just fucking rinse your entire HP. It is great. Offering is amazing. Perfected Strike! Do we really need to argue that Perfected Strike belongs in fucking D tier, man? Like, again, you can take it in Act 1. You can take it in Act 1 if you need damage. It's not just, it's not even a card that you're like Carnage or Bludgeon that you're like, oh, that's a damage card. That's pretty good. I'm going to take it in Act 1 and pretty good. No, Perfected Strike, you're like, fine, I will take a Perfected Strike in order to be able to deal with the elite that I'm forced to take on floor 6. And then the next floor, you see another Perfected Strike, and you're like, because now it's a little bit better. And that is where Perfected Strike fits in. That's where Perfected Strike goes. Let it be known that I think that it is the ultimate bottom of D tier. I think that it is the most bottom of D tier that you can ever get. It is D for dump, as in poop. But I think you take it enough that it's useful. Pommel Strike! Pommel Strike is an S tier card, and I might have to move my camera for the next few cards because there's some other S tiers coming. Pommel Strike is an S tier card. It is potentially the only, because I can't think of every single card at the same time, the only card that upgrades the number of cards that it draws along with another positive thing. And there's going to be a lot of actuallys going on in this chat right now that I've argued with many times in the past. But the fact that it upgrades not only the number of cards that it draws, but also the damage it's small. It's very, very small. But with vulnerable, it matters. And just the fact that it does is insane. And obviously, it's really easy to generate infinites with it, but it's also a fucking common card. It's literally the exact, it's very sim, it's not exactly, but it's very similar to Cool-Headed for me on the defect, where it just feels like you could just keep taking them, and you want them all upgraded. They're much better upgraded, but I'm just going to keep fucking taking them, especially if they're upgraded. They're just good. You can have 3-4 Pommel Strikes in almost every single Ironclad deck that you have. There's always room for another Pommel Strike, man. And then in late game, you see them upgraded more often. Pommel Strikes, man. Pommel Strikes are fucking good. They're fucking good. And it increases the damage of your Perfected Strike. That's true. All right, Chad, time to move myself down a little bit. Power Through. This is a card that I used to think was pretty bad, but I now think is like the tippity top of A tier. I think it is the tippity top of A tier. Only because I think it's really awkward to put more than one into a deck. But I think almost every single deck can have one. But I think more than one is really difficult. And I don't even think you need a lot of synergy in order to be able to play a Power Through super effectively. Because Power Through, what it does is it helps you get through your hallway fights. The hallway fights that we've discussed last on average in Act 1 and 2 around 5 turns maximum. Most Act 1 hallway fights are maximum 5 turns. And so you're very rarely going to reshuffle your deck and have those wounds matter on average in your runs. And obviously the Ironclad has a lot of things to be able to deal with the added statuses. And the fact that they're added into your hand is honestly better. It synergizes with so many things. It helps you exhaust them easier. It's just good. Power Through, the tippity top of A tier. Just not S, because I think it's hard to slot 2 into every deck. Some decks can add 2. Decent amount of decks can add 2. But I think it's hard to slot more than 1 into a deck. All right, Pommel. We're in the P's. We're deep into the P's now. After our Pommels and Powers and Pummels now. Pommel is obviously an incredible card when you get all of your synergizing stuff going on, right? If you have a lot of strength, Pommel's fucking incredible. If you have a lot of, exhaust synergies, Pommel's fucking incredible. But if you have nothing, God, does Pommel fucking suck, man. When you get weakened and it says, hey, do you want to deal 1 times 4? Do you know how embarrassing it is to deal 1 times 4, bro? So I think because of how bad it is, when it's bad, I think it belongs in C tier. These cards are all just useful, right? They're useful all the time. This shit is not useful all the time, man. All right, next up, Rage. And I think this one is confusing to me. I don't think you can really ever have more than 1 Rage in a deck. A lot of times it feels really hard to have more than 1 Rage. Because then when you have more than 1 Rage, you're playing less attacks. And less attacks means less Rage. But you know what Rage goes really well with? Pommel Strike. But I think a lot of times 1 Rage plus can be the difference fucking maker in your deck. I think one Rage Plus can go fucking crazy mode. And I think I'm taking it more often than every single card here. So I think it goes in the middle of the pack in C tier, kind of in like the Flex and Intimidate slot, where if it shows up and it's pre-upgraded in Act 2, I'm like, oh shit, a Rage Plus. It just slots right in comfortably. I transform into a Rage Minus. I'm like, all right, it works. It's chilling. We're doing aight. Rampage! Chad, I want to know your opinions on Rampage. Talk some shit. Tell Rampage that it sucks or that it's the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life. I wish it was better. Damn. I want it to be really good. Most underrated card ever. Why would you say, Rose, ask that it's the most underrated card ever? It can actually deal with a good amount of fights, but people don't pick it. So, Rage, I think, is good in one spot. Killing the Act 1 boss, usually if it's not Slime Boss. Because Slime Boss adds way too many statuses to your deck. But then by the time you get to the Act 2 boss, unless you're playing specifically around Rampage, which I don't think you should be most of the time, your deck is too big, it doesn't cycle well enough, and if it does cycle better, you probably just have better things to do with it. Sorry, Rampage. Did I say Rage? Rampage. And it's just a worse pressure point sometimes if you don't have a significant amount of vulnerable. Because it scales much faster if you have vulnerable, obviously. But it's also just pressure points, but it's only on this one card. Dude, I could take 17 Rampages, but they don't scale each other. What the hell is that, man? So I think that it belongs at the top of D tier. I think it belongs at the top of D tier that I'm like, it's a Strike Plus that, again, if I don't see another Strike Plus, and it's a pick between Perfected Strike and Rampage, and I need to kill an elite, yeah, I'm going to take a Rampage. It's cool. It'll get me through Act 1. Yeah, I think Rampage, it can be a good take early, but the later on in the game, you're never taking a Rampage in Act 3. I think I've taken Rampage a singular time in Act 3, and I think it was like a big highlight YouTube video. In all, like 4,000 hours of playing the game, I've only taken a Rampage in Act 3 a single time. That's a butt card, man. Butt card. Reaper's S tier. I don't think we need to talk about that. Do we need to talk about that? Any talkers? I think it can get you through Act 1 just alone by itself, just because you can heal up so much against the mass AoE fights. And then usually by Act 2, you should have some sort of synergy with it. Whether or not it's like you have a lot of energy, so you can just play it easily. You have Snecko, so you can play it easily. You have Dual Wield, so you can make a lot of copies. You have Strength Gain. You have Vulnerable. You have Anti-Weakening. You have a lot of Stall. You have something. You should have something to be able to synergize with it, usually in Act 2. If you don't, then your deck's probably going to flounder without it. And so it doesn't matter whether you have it or not. Reckless Charge. Reckless Charge, I think, is a really, really interesting card because I think it's very similar comparison to something like Wild Strike. But I think Reckless Charge is like an Anger Minus, where they kind of are fitting into the same thing in Act 1, where you're taking a 0-cost card that just helps you deal with the enemies. And I think that by the time that your deck matures enough, you don't mind adding a Daze into your deck, but at the same time, you do mind adding a Daze into your deck. I think I would put Reckless Charge at, like, the most bottom of B tier possible. The most bottom. Like, I take Reckless Charge a lot of times in Act 1. Or if you have some sort of synergy with statuses in Act 2, you can take it a lot. I've had a lot of infinites with Reckless Charge. I think you can go infinite a lot of times with Reckless Charge. Medkit it synergizes with. Feel No Pain, Dark Embrace, it doesn't feel terrible with. Because even with a Feel No Pain, at least you draw a status and for free gives you 4 block. Not the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life. But I don't think it's similar to like Iron Wave, Hemo. You're not taking a lot in Act 2. Cleave, you're not taking a lot in Act 2. But Act 1, you're happy to see it. You're adding it to your deck. Maybe you're going to dual wield it in a clutch spot in order to get a bunch of 0-cost attacks. You know? It's chilling. Rupture! I'm sorry. Rupture enjoyers. D for Desperation. I like the way that Mobius said that. I'd say D for Desperation. It is borderline F tier in my opinion, but I love this card. I really like this card. But it takes so much to set up. I think that it is terrible with things like Combust and Brutality, and I think it is better with things like Bloodletting and Offering. Because these cards are already good on their own and can stack up on their own versus taking a poop card with some other meh poop cards. Just because they're consistent doesn't mean that that automatically makes it good. Because it's 2 cards that are taking up draw, that I'm having to draw these 2 cards, play these 2 cards instead of my block stuff, and instead of my damage stuff. It's taking up all this real estate in my hand and in my deck. And then I have to wait until the next turn to be able to deal with it. And then it's less than the demon forms, and it's just fart. But if you have stuff like Bloodletting and Offering, then again, you can even get the strength the turn that you play it. Right? Like, there's plenty of, like, Runic Cube decks with have multiple Bloodlettings, multiple Offerings. I love a Rupture there, man. Because then it synergizes with something like a Reaper so I can maintain my HP. It's really solid. Yeah. Searing Blow. That's an F-tier card, man. That shit is the worst shit I've ever seen, but it's such a fun mechanic. And when the one time that you can get it off, again, I've played like 4,000 hours of this game, and I've gotten it off maybe 5 times successfully. And those 5 times are so fucking fun, man. Those 5 times are so fun. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. Pretty bad. All right, next up, Second Wind. Second Wind is an S-tier card. Second Wind is so goddamn good. The amount of block that you get for 1 cost, even early in the game, is insane. So it allows you to use your energy early on to do more damage, right? Whereas normally, if I'm going up against the Jawworm, I have to play Defend, Strike on turn 1. Now, I can play Second Wind, Strike. Like, that's the value of that, being able to do that multiple number of times over the course of an entire act early on in the game, saves you so much HP because enemies like to scale in Act 1. It saves you HP. It makes your deck more efficient. You then get to cycle into your higher damage cards. So in those later turns, when you're like, oh, I need to draw 3 strikes this turn to be able to deal with Jawworm, when he's going to be dealing 17 damage to me next turn, and you draw Defend and 2 strikes, and then like some other poop butt, and you can't deal with them, and so you have to take 12 damage. Well, guess what? Second Wind is going to make it easier for you to be able to get off your 18 damage that turn, right? Because you're going to cycle your small deck into less defense again. Like, it's just, it does so much. And then obviously later in the game, you get more statuses, you have more cards. It just does more. You get more draw, you get more synergies. It just pops the fuck off. I love Second Wind. I think that it is hard to take 2. It's better. Taking 2 Second Winds can get a little bit meh. Take 2 a decent amount of times, because eventually you get a really thick deck when you like a lot of exhaust synergies. You get a really thick deck, right? So that you can have a lot of cards to fucking churn and go crazy with. And so then a Second Wind, you know, a second Wind to be able to do your cycling faster can be fine. Can be great. Next up, Seeing Red. Seeing Red, 1 energy, gain 1, net 1 energy. It feels kind of bad when you just take it early on and it's just +1 energy. But also early on in the game, if you draw a hand of 5 cards, one of them is Seeing Red, and it's 1 energy. You're then going to 4 energy, and you likely have 4 energy left of cards now in your hand with those last 4 cards. So it can net you 1 card additional the turn that you draw it and play it. And then I think in almost every single deck, you can slot in eventually a Seeing Red, because eventually you're going to get a lot of draw. Okay, I want a Seeing Red. I get Dark Embrace, Feel No Pain stuff. Okay, I want a Seeing Red. I have Runic Pyramid. Okay, I want a Seeing Red. Even with Snecko, not terrible to have a Seeing Red. You get Corruption? Yeah, of course I'd love a Seeing Red. So I think that Seeing Red is actually A tier. Because you almost always at some point in the game put in 1 Seeing Red. And then in a lot of decks, I don't mind 2, 3, 4 Seeing Reds, man. I would not care if there were more Seeing Reds in my life. In terms of cards that I will almost always add 1 to, I think I can almost always add a Seeing Red to the deck. Maybe this is an incorrect take. This could be, maybe this is the most common one going to be appearing in the YouTube comments. Tell me that I'm stupid as hell. And I agree with every single one of your takes, but what you did to Seeing Red, that shit, it deserves it's getting too much love. Next up, we have Sentinel. Sentinel. I think Sentinel is like the most C-tier card I've ever seen in my entire life. Once you get exhaust synergy going, Sentinel's amazing. I have a Burning Pact in my deck and a good amount of cycle. Burning Pact's amazing. I got Dark Embrace shit. I got Burning Pact's amazing. True Grip Plus, Seeing Red, Sentinel's amazing. I got Corruption, Sentinel's amazing. But do I ever want to see this fucking card until I have that engine running? No, I don't want to ever see this stupid ass shit. I transform a Defend and I get a Sentinel? What the hell did I just do, man? I transformed the fucking Defend into a fucking Defend. What the hell is that? But then later in the game, I don't mind having 1 Sentinel. I don't mind having 2 Sentinels. Probably not 3, but they're really good later in the game. Next up, Sever Soul. Sever Soul, I also think is a C-tier card because again, I'm excited to see it early on. If I get a Sever Soul in Act 1, I'm probably and again, it's there's not a better card available. I'd put it in the Carnage or Bludgeon tier, where I'm going to take a Sever Soul in order to be able to deal good damage early on, accompanied with a little bit of vulnerable. And also, it's really good in Act 1 versus a lot of elites, so that you can delete a lot of the skills in your deck and then redraw into attacks, and you can damage race them faster, especially things like Gremlin Knob. Not terrible into Lagavulin either. Not terrible into Tri-Sentries if you have any sort of synergies with any sort of exhaust. It's not the greatest thing in the game later in the game, but you'll still probably play it a significant number of times. Good against Hexaghost Burn. Yeah, it's good against a lot of shit. It's good against the Act 1 bosses. It's good in Act... It's just good. But I never want more than 1, usually. I'm never going to choose it over a good card, usually. I'm not going to usually take it in Act 2, usually. But it can be good. Shockwave! Shockwave, I would put at an A-tier card, and I would put it towards the top of A-tier. Because again, you're almost always taking a Shockwave, but I'm almost never taking a second Shockwave. I'm not really taking a second Shockwave. And I love calling it Shockwave. And I just picture Shaq in his big self, waving at me from the sidelines as I'm playing my run. Shrug It Off! Shrug It Off is like the most A-tier card that I could ever think of. You're taking a Shrug, you're taking multiple Shrugs, but we can agree that it's not doing enough every single time that you're taking it, that I care about putting it in S tier. It's amazing when you get Corruption, you can take an infinite number of Shrugs, because once you play Corruption, you got an infinite number of block. It's pretty meh, but I'm going to take a number of them. I think it's better than something like Cleave that's down in B tier, just because I'm not upset if by the end of my run I have 4 or 5 Shrugs. Next up, we have Spot Weakness. Spot Weakness gives you 1 more attack than an Inflame in their respective forms. But the main downside of Spot Weakness is 2 downsides, actually. 1, it's going to cycle back into your deck. But 2, you have to play it on the right fucking turn, and it can feel really bad to draw it on that right turn. And I think a lot of the time, you don't take Spot Weakness based on what your deck is doing. You take Spot Weakness versus what boss you're going to fight. If you're going to fight Slime Boss, you're like, damn, I'm not going to take a Spot Weakness. But if you're fighting Hexaghost or Guardian, you take a fucking Spot Weakness. And then it fucking slams, and it kills, and it's awesome. And then I think it's really good the later on in the game that it goes. It gets easier to play, and it can be set up for what your deck can do. So I think that it's a solid B tier card. I'd put it at very solid B tier. It's an upgrade target a lot of the times as well. Going to 4 strength is insanely good. But it's not guaranteed. And again, a lot of the time, it coming back too often or on the wrong turn can be bad. So it cycling can be a negative. Because in most fights early on in the game, you don't need more than like 4 or 8 strength. And instead, you might need a block card on a turn or 2. So, like, sometimes it can be bad to come back around. It does have interesting synergies with things like Runic Dome. Chat is pointing out, yes, it does have interesting synergies with things like Runic Dome. But, yeah, it's pretty meh. But also pretty good. But you usually don't need to get it off more than 1 or 2 times in a fight. And then it can kind of just become a little bit heavy in the deck. But if you have something like Corruption, it's excellent. It's amazing. Strike. Sword Boomerang. This is a card that I used to give a glowing review to. It's a better Heavy Blade, right? In a way, because it's 1 mana and deal big multi-attack. But the randomness of it really fucking sucks. And it really feels bad when you're weakened. So I would put this card at, like, the ultra bottom of C tier. Like, the ultra bottom of C tier. I'm not super excited to take it in Act 1. I'll take it if I have to. I'd rather take big bonks over it in Act 1. And then by the time that I have strength gaining, then I'm like, okay, I'll take a sword boomerang. That's good. It's good if I have the strength already. But I would take it after the strength, which is why I would rank it less than the bonk cards. It's really bad in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with you. But I think that it's better than Perfected Strike and Rampage and Clothesline. I think that they're kind of in a league of their own, whereas Sword Boomerang can actually win you runs way more often than the rest of them. Thunderclap. I think Thunderclap is in a very similar place to these type of cards, where they're like pretty good to take early on. They're pretty good to take in the mid game as well. They're also a good source of AoE, good source of vulnerable, good source of artifact stripping. It's pretty good. I could take a Thunderclap in most decks, and I would take them early on over a lot of these cards, which is I think where this kind of lands, right? If I have a card award and it's early on, first card award, and it's Cleave versus Sword Boomerang, or Cleave versus Dropkick, I'm probably going to take a Cleave or a Sword Boomerang. Maybe I take a Carnage over a Cleave early on, because I could see a Cleave more often. But if I'm comparing them, you know, it's Thunderclap, I'm taking more than a Sword Boomerang. Thunderclap, I'm taking more than a Dropkick, you know? I'm taking more than a Pommel early on. Yeah, it synergizes with a lot. I think it just works really well. Next up, True Grit. This card, if it is upgraded, is borderline S tier, if not. Unupgraded, though, it is straight poop from asshole fuck. It is so goddamn bad that I would actually put it towards the bottom of B tier. I would put this shit from the bottom of B tier. It is the most upgrade necessary card that the Ironclad has. It is like detrimental to your deck half the time. Like, it is Havoc level when it's unupgraded, and then when it's upgraded, it's like borderline S tier, so I gotta put it straight in the middle. I could understand if you wanted to put it at the top of C, because a lot of times you can't take it early on, but I just think with how good it is when it's upgraded, I just love it. Twin Strike! Twin Strike I'd also put in B tier, because again, I just think it's better than the rest of these. And then as the game goes on too, it's better as well as it scales with strength. I could understand you also putting it in C tier because it just is a damage card. In terms of the frequency of me taking it, I think it's really fucking good. As a damage source to take early on that can then turn into something better if your deck can go that way. And it does really well with a lot of relics that scale with strength and things like that. And yeah. It also scales with Strike Dummy, so pretty good. Rounding out the some of the uncommon cards, Uppercut, I think is A tier. Uppercut is a card that I'm almost always going to take one of in a deck if I don't have a Shockwave. I think it's like you're like either or. It's whatever one I find first I'm taking. I prefer a Shockwave over an Uppercut, but if I find an Uppercut early, I'm gonna take an Uppercut early, you know? I can play Uppercut more times, but it has to be targeted on an individual. I can only play Shockwave once, but it hits everybody. It's really fucking good. Uppercut is only good with an upgrade. No. It's much better than upgrade. I think it's significantly better with an upgrade. It does need an upgrade, but I think it's still really good without an upgrade. I think it's still significantly good without an upgrade. Why is Clothesline so much worse than Uppercut? Yeah, that's something that we really didn't touch on in Econ. I'll answer this one question for you since it's your first time chatting. I think that Clothesline feels really bad to take because of the fact that it doesn't do both, and because of the fact that you already have so many forms of weakening for the Ironclad. Like, the Ironclad has so much weakening in his kit from Uppercut, from Shockwave, from Champ Belt, from Intimidate, from so many different things. And also the Ironclad is naturally a character that does a good job of blocking, that he oftentimes doesn't even need weaken, or he can use his health bar as a resource that he doesn't need weaken. That it feels really weird to take something like a Clothesline, and I tend to only take Clothesline super early on in a run, and I would rather take a lot of other cards over it. But yeah, the double artifact strip is way better, and the vulnerable edition is just insane. In terms of what another thing is, like, what would I rather play twice if I had like a double tap or like I had a Necronomicon? You'd rather play an Uppercut. It scales with itself versus Clothesline doesn't even scale itself. War Cry. War Cry's a weird card because, like, it's the same thing with like Brutality, where it's like if I didn't have War Cry in my deck, I would just draw the card that War Cry would draw if I didn't have War Cry in it. Like, I would just draw the card that War Cry would have given me. But then it like has synergies with like Dark Embrace and Feel No Pain. War Cry Plus is really, really strong. It's net positive. Again, it synergizes with all the exhaust stuff. But there are a lot of enemies in the game that punish you for playing cards. You know, you have things like the Chosen or Time Eater or the Heart that don't want you to play a significant number of cards if you don't have significant synergies with them. So I think that War Cry is like pretty C tier to me, where if you take it without synergies, it just is nothing. Like, it's literally nothing. It's quite literally nothing. It could do a little bit to manipulate, you know, if I want to play a card next turn, or I want to play a card whenever, or I want to Havoc a card, or, you know, I want to, you know, put a burn on the top of my draw pile and then draw a card so that I draw 2 cards with Evolve. Wow! Like, it's just meh. It's the definition of, it's not meh, but it's not useless, so I can't call it, I don't know, you could put it in D tier, but I think it's just, because it synergizes so well with the goodest cards in the game, that I would, yeah, I would say that it's C tier. Whirlwind! Whirlwind is definitely one of the better cards for the Ironclad in terms of AoE. I think that it could potentially be better than Immolate in terms of AoE. The main reason why I think that it might be B tier to me is because it deals less damage than a strike originally. So it feels weird. You have to upgrade it for it to be a really solid card. But I think that you can easily revolve a deck around it. It scales with strength really efficiently. It can deal with your Reptomancer fights. It can deal with all of your AoE type stuff. The Ironclad obviously has really good manipulation of energy by getting rid of his necessity to use energy, by using other tools in order to get energy, right? He's really fucking good at that. But you're never wanting more than one in the deck, obviously, unless you have Chemex or something like that. It's fun to take early. I do love to see a Whirlwind early on when you have less upgrade debt. But by the time you find it later in the game and you have more upgrade debt, it feels harder and harder to upgrade. But it's good. I think like C tier and above are cards that you regularly have in your deck. So I would put it in the high B tier. I think it's fine. I think it's okay. And then Wild Strike, the last card in the deck. If Japanese Export is still here, they're putting it in the bottom of F tier. They fucking hate this cards. But I'd put it low in D tier. I'd put it at the very, 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 very bottom of D tier. It sucks. Getting a wound added to your deck really fucking sucks. Putting it in your draw pile especially really fucking sucks. But do you take one in Act 1 to be able to deal a significant amount of damage because you can always play with your bash? Sure. But then it just kind of sits, and it's in the desperation tier. Yeah, I'd put it in the desperation tier. Yeah, it's not something that you're ever taking late game either. If you like have any sort of status synergies, you're never like, oh, it's Act 3. Let me take a Wild Strike so that I can do my evolved combos better. Like it's just not necessary. Reckless Charge does everything that a Wild Strike would do, but 2 tiers better. You know, it's just way better. So either way. That's the official tier list. If you're watching this on YouTube, tell me in the comments what you would do differently, where you would have put something else. I'm sure you've already done it. If you're on Twitch chat right now, I guess you can ask something. My voice hurts and I want to play Lunky. Ocean tier list? Fuck that shit. But if you guys want to see me revamp the silence, I'm super down to do it. I'm super down to revamp the other classes as well.
On a noble quest to escape the wrath of the IRS. He's got conflicting positions in the endless fight for queer folks and